So the topic which we are going to discuss now is essentials of branding elements. So we already discussed in our last video that what is branding elements. We also discussed about uh, what are the different components of brand element. And now in this session, let's talk about what are the essentials of brand element. So let's talk about a basic introduction about. So we already talked that brand elements are those devices that can be trademarked. It could be your logo, it could be your brand name, it could be your symbol, it could be your slogan, it could be your color. It can be anything that can help consumers to identify and distinguish brand. There are only two purpose for this. First is your identification and second is your distinguish. It helps you in distinguishing from other competitors. These elements also create an emotional connect, so that is also very helpful, that creates an emotional bond with the customers. And there are so many companies which we discussed in the last session also. Nike local logo and slogan is already given over there. So what are the different elements, what are the various essentials while deciding for any brand element? What are the things which you keep in mind? The first is it should be memorable. Second, it should be meaningful. Third, it should be likable. Fourth, it could be transferable. Fifth, it could be adaptable. Next is protectable. So let's discuss one by one each one of them. The first one is memorable. So whenever you are deciding on the branding elements, whether it is a logo, whether it is the name of the brand, make sure that it should be easy to remember and it should be easy to recall also. So that means you can remember for the first time very easily. It gets sticks to your mind. At the same time, you can recall it. You can associate with the brand. Easy to spell and read. So never ever keep those names which are very complex or jargons. Always try to keep those names which are easy to read, easy to spell, easy to pronounce. Okay, which is so that the consumer doesn't have to make a lot of effort, right? And short and simple names are always good for brand. For example, Lux, Taj, LG. They're so easy to pronounce. They're so easy, right? Apple, right? Puma, like easy. Dove. So it becomes something which is Nivea. So it is one of those thing which you should always keep in mind whenever you are deciding on your branding elements. The next thing is meaningful. So try to keep your brand elements meaningful. That means try to make sure that you answer following questions. What are the following questions we have? First, is the brand element is credible? So whenever you are choosing your brand element, make sure that those brand elements are credible in nature, right? Does it suggest the corresponding category? Now this is important. This might not be relevant for everything, but at least you must ensure, you must try to make sure that if with your name, your brand name, if it is clear that in which category it is, so it becomes very easy. For example, British Airways. So when you talk about British Airways, you automatically understand we are talking about something like airways, right? We're talking about flights. So it becomes little easier for the people to understand this brand belongs only to this category. But I can give you certain other example. For example, let's talk about Danone. Now Danone, when I will say Danone, you might not think of a dairy brand because it doesn't uh, seems to be like a dairy brand, right? So in this way, you need try to indicate the benefits to the customer. So make sure that it reflects your corresponding category. At the same time, it is also very important that should indicate the benefit to the customers. So basically, if you can also let customers know the benefit of the product from the brand element. For example, Fair and Lovely fairness cream. So we can clearly know that it's a fairness cream, and we also know what is the purpose to make people fair and lovely. Close up toothpaste. That means it is a toothpaste. And when you're saying close up, that means you're talking about even if you are close, there is no stinkness, right? Mother Recipe. So Mother Recipe is another brand which makes a lot of pickles and everything. So all this brand is also talks about your Mother Recipe, like very simple, talking about that it is something related to food, right? So it is very important that if your element is little meaningful, it becomes easier. Although on the contradictory side, we have seen so many brands which doesn't communicate anything. For example, Apple is a fruit, but you made a phone out of it, right? You made laptops of Apple. So abstract names are also successful, but if it is meaningful, specifically in certain categories like food category, If it is meaningful, it becomes relatively easy for the customers. Likable. The brand must be likable. Once you hear or see that brand, you should always feel that imagery. For example, McDonald's, whenever we talk about McDonald's, Ronald face comes in front of your eyes. The brand should evoke your emotions, either positive or negative. Obviously, the marketers always want to have positive emotions, but there should be certain kind of emotion attached to the brand. Some brands become iconic because of the passage of time. They have been using same elements time to time, which make them memorable also, likable also, meaningful also. For example, brands like Nokia, brands like Coke, brand like Splendor, brands like Scorpio, all these brands are super successful. Why? Because they were likable in nature. They had an emotional connect with brand. So it is not immediately possible, but it takes a passage of time to do it. But once it is done, then a lot of emotional buying happens. Next, we have is transferable. So it is very important that you create a brand element in such a way that it can be extended to other product categories also. This is important because if you are building a brand with just, and for example, look at brands like Burger King. So if I'll say Burger King, you will always associate it with burger only, right? But if you are making a brand name which is a little generic in nature, which can be extended to other categories also, that will be very helpful. For example, Amazon is a river name, right? So it is a long river, so it can be anything. It can sell books also, it can extend to other categories also, it can sell anything. So there is no foundation. And this is the only reason why Apple, once they started their business, their name was Apple Computers. Later on, they removed computers from their name and it became Apple Incorporation. The reason was they wanted Apple to make everything in technology. It can make iPods also, it can make iPhone also, it can make headphones also, it can make computer devices also. Everything is possible. Today, they are making keyboards also, they're making mouses also, everything they're making. Why? Because their name is designed in such a way that it is transferable to other brand categories also, other product categories also. Next we have is adaptability. So another brand element which is very important is that you must have, it should be and have that capacity of being updated. It should not be rigid. Time to time we have to update the brand element also. So we have to change the logo sometimes, we have to change the symbol also, we need to change. There is a company called Shell, they have changed so many times their logo because they have designed in such a way that there is a possibility. The company don't want to change the brand name, but it increases their expenses. They do want, it is not easy and it is expensive also, but at times, if you want to do something with your brand, you want to change some of your elements, which is very important. You want to communicate to the customer that you are repositioning itself, you are rebranding itself, you are doing something new, and that's why people should believe that, oh, now they're doing something new, right? And that can be possible only by changing some kind of brand elements. So Nano has multiple meanings, so it can be applied to different categories and into different segments, right? Highly localized brands will not help. So if you are trying to make a very localized brand only for a particular province or a state or a particular country, then it would be difficult for you to update it for the other countries also. So if you want to become a global brand, you have to make sure that your elements are adaptable and they can be adapted to every context. Next we have is protectable. So as I told you right from the beginning, that brand elements should be legally protected. That means they must have the ability to be trademarked or copyrighted. That means you should not copy it from anybody else. You should not be, you should be protect itself from your imitation or from your competitors, right? And because for one name or for one logo, there can only be one company registering it. So if anything happens, any other brand try to register it, they can know that this is legally protected. So it's very important that you distinct and protected brands should always be remembered. So you try to, because you wanted to keep it for hundreds of years, right? You're not going to change it every time. So it's very important that you keep it distinctive and protective as well. So